What's the deal, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of Okay, let's talk about it. Jeffy, I am. How you doing? Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Let me ask you a question. How was your week? How you feeling? How do you feel about your everyday life? The reason why I asked that because there were some important things that we didn't discuss last week that I probably should have checked in to discuss. Now, there's a war. Is that important to you? Are you one of these workers that are looking for the overtime payments? The paid overtime. As a matter of fact, you will get that next year on your income taxes. So, if you work them hours and you get it, congratulations. And then on other news and other places, entertainment news, rapper Four Extra blew off his right hand playing with an M80 during the 4th of July weekend. You know, different topics, different things I like to watch. So, what's is that really important? Okay, let's see what's important. How about this? Is this important to you?
Us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes.
Now, was that important to you? Me, myself, I think it's very entertaining and it takes your mind off of what's really going on in society nowadays, right? And why I say that is with the lies, let's just call them what it is. The distruths, how about that? About the gas prices, about the economy's doing better. Where I live in the middle of America, I see a whole different dynamic. And then spending 2 weeks in North Dallas, I see something different. But with this going on for so long, you can't blame Biden. You can't blame Camilla. No, you just can't. It's a lot of deflecting on what's really going on in society right now. So, economically, as a U.S. resident, if you want to say, let's dive into some things that really make sense and really are important to people more so than the bullshit.
I've been really disappointed. And what's been troubling to me about your nomination from the beginning is your failure to just stand up and take accountability for mistakes that you made and that all Americans know that you've made. Everyone in this room, every one of us has made mistakes, but what America expects from leaders, especially leaders who are tasked with our national security or could be tasked with the position for which you're nominated for, is for people to stand up and just take responsibility, take accountability. But I heard you just blame Biden. I've seen you not only fail to stand up, but lie. You said about this person when you were involved in the sharing of sensitive information about imminent military operations. I've listened to you now for weeks and months. You said this journalist intentionally infiltrated that signal chain. You said that he was sucked in. You denied, deflected, and then you did something that to me really lacks integrity, is that you sought out to demean and degrade that very journalist in crass and frankly cruel ways that made him a target. That's not leadership. When you blame people that tell the truth, that's not leadership. When you can't say the words, I made a mistake, I could have done better, I learned valuable lessons from this experience. Instead, at a moment where our national security was clearly compromised, you denied, you deflected, and then you demeaned and degraded those people who objectively told the truth and criticized your actions. Smearing people, attacking folks, singling them out just furthers, compounds what I think is disqualifying about you for this position.
Wow.
Now, those are interesting things that need to be covered and need to be thought about. Now, if you're part of this code, the MAGA code, or whatever you want to call it, so be it. But listen to some reality and some common ground, because no one is winning, not unless you make over $150,000 a year. And me, myself, I respect how Democrats are really talking. I respect how Democrats are really being outside themselves. And I think that's what's needed. What's also needed, like the other side has used social media to a point to where it's nothing but fake news. Everything is fake. AI, you don't know what is what, right? So I think we should use the same tactics to get what we want. In order to live, there has to be war at some point in time. You never bring war up on someone unless they bring it up on you first, right? How about that? But yeah, this was interesting too. You know, check it out.
See, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test. Anyway, have a good time.
Now, my point to that is, right now, he's attacking qualified people for nothing. The hand got caught in the cookie jar. The Epstein issue debacle. They're trying to blame it on everything but the truth. And if you're old enough like me, myself, I'm a man in his 50s. I remember Epstein and Trump. I remember rappers hanging out with with the president. Your favorite rappers, our legends. And to tell you the truth, I have a Source magazine with some of this stuff in it because I collect Source magazines. And I said, well, do I really want to show that? Because as I look on the internet, everything has basically been scrubbed. So, you know, however you choose it, and especially tagging someone that I enjoy listening to, let her tell you herself. How about that?
In just my own committees, this has got to be the second or third time I've had to sit through the same tired narrative. If my Republican colleagues are truly concerned about taxpayer dollars being misused for political agendas, I'd encourage them to take a long, hard look in the mirror. But since we're here again, spending more of the American people's money and time on political theater, let's at least stick to the facts. Fact. Under the Trump administration, the Department of Justice stripped hundreds of millions of dollars from the Office of Justice Programs, money that funded essential community safety initiatives like victim services, gang prevention, and reentry support. Fact. Trump and Republicans slashed grants to organizations like the National Organization for Victim Assistance, which trains advocates who staff domestic violence shelters, hotlines, and rape crisis centers. Fact. They cut over $10 million in funding to the National Policing Institute, a nonprofit helping rural police departments reduce violent crime. Fact, this week, Republicans are trying to gut PEPFAR, a life-saving program that partners with nonprofits around the world and has saved more than 26 million lives. And let's not forget, many of these cuts were laid out in Project 2025, a radical far-right playbook drafted by hyper-conservative nonprofits for the express purpose of dismantling the very government institutions and systems that serve the public good. Ironically, we even have one of the authors of Project 2025 here with us today. So let's not pretend this is about nonprofit accountability, because if it were, this committee would also be investigating the Conservative Partnership Institute, which has pushed anti-immigrant, anti-LGBTQ+, and anti-vaccine propaganda and hosted efforts to challenge the 2020 election.
You know what? I like her. She's a beautiful woman, and she's on point, and she's not scared to give you what you want when you want it. That's what we need. I can even say, man, the president in the running, I don't know, but even on the serious side, things need to be said. What Senator Cory Booker said. However you voted, think about what you voted for. Think about what's going on in the last 6 months of your life. You can blame it on, woke, whatever. You can blame it on black fatigue. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's funny. You can blame it on DEI. But you know what? I thought it was DEIA, accessibility. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe. But you know what? You ever heard of white rage? Wow. Okay. I just wanted to share a little bit and what we missed last week. What's important to you? What are you going to pay attention to? You know what I mean? Just take some time. Think about what you voted for. Think about what you want in life. Think about what your kids need, what your parents need, what your grandparents need. Just think about it. Hey, it's been a minute. It's been a long time, but we picked the right time. Jeffy, I am. We talked about it. In a minute.